I spend almost every day telling kids to keep their desk clean, and then I walk over and look at this and I realize it's no wonder nobody can keep their desk clean. I'm a very organized person and I can't even seem to manage it. Hi, I'm still alive, hanging on, but I'm barely breathing or something like that. I was thinking actually the other day that there is so many things to be frustrated and negative about. I do not have corona. That's a positive. But there's also so many things to be positive about, and I want to be better about recognizing the positive things because it is so much easier to dwell on the negative things. And I'd just like to be a little bit better about recognizing the positive for my own mental sanity, and also because honestly, I love my job. I walked in today to pick up the kids and I was like, ugh. And then I just saw them and I was like, you know what? I do love these little people. Anyway, I am back. In case you missed it, my name is Brittany. I'm a second grade teacher in Utah. This is my 4th year teaching. And I've had a couple of you ask, how in the world do you do all the things with Wonders in particular, that being a literacy curriculum that a lot of us around the country use, and just like all the things in general. I was talking to some other teachers at our school today about that. So I thought I'd just walk you through what I do for Wonders, which is actually kind of what I do for all of our other curriculums. So if you do not use this particular curriculum, I feel like these tips could still happen. So if you do not use this particular curriculum, I feel like these tips could still potentially help you, because it just is kind of how to take an overwhelming curriculum and make it actually work in your classroom. This is just what I do, what we do. Many other people do it differently, but I'll share my perspective. So if that sounds interesting to you, or if you'd like to just hear me mumble and stumble over words, keep watching. All right, in case you're unfamiliar with Wonders, this is what it looks like. This is 1 unit. So I have 6 of these books. This is what the day-to-day material looks like. So this is like, let's start at the beginning of day 2 really fast so you can see. Oh yeah, we're still going. So 1 day of material is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 pages. If you look at that and are like, that's okay. Also me. So I no longer pull these books out because I adapt some things. I do follow this curriculum, sort of. So let me show you how I took those apart and kind of worked with it. Okay, my lifesaver has been this resource. It's from the Teacher's Guide. It's covered up on that page, theteachersguide.com. Okay, so this is the greatest thing that ever happened, because she took this and summarized it into this. So it tells you what stories are available for you and what genre the kids are studying that week. It gives you all the skills that they'll be working on, the vocabulary, high frequency, and spelling phonics words that they've got. I added some extra notes in here for myself, how that aligns to other units, but this is like the greatest thing ever. So if you have not used her stuff yet, go to the Teacher's Guide, teachersguide.com. She has them for all of Wonders, and she also has just a ton of awesome resources in general, so go check her out. So what I do is I take a look at this and I write all of these things. And wow, that's really yellow. I write it on this glorious wall. This is our focus wall, so that the kids and I know what we're focusing on. As you can tell, this is a well-loved location, and it looks even dirtier in this camera lighting than it does in person. So we write what we're focusing on, those skills from that page on here, and that helps me know what to pay attention to that week. In terms of the actual Wonders program and what I personally use, we follow the sequence of content as far as like what they're doing in phonics and grammar and mechanics. We don't follow the writing at all at our school. We do writing a little bit differently, but we follow the sequence of everything. I rarely use the Wonders stories, the anthology, and those other stories, not because they're bad, but I don't like them. So what I have done is I've taken the concepts like key details or context clues, and I've found picture books or other books that I like that teach those same concepts, and I use my own stories. So I'm still following the structure, but I use my own materials to do it. That is my number one tip with curriculum. You don't have to just use the materials that they give you. They're providing those so that you don't have to go to the extra legwork of finding your own materials. But if you want to do that legwork and go find your own materials, use their structure with your materials. Now, disclaimer, your principal administration, they're the ones that tell you how much fidelity you have to use with the curriculum that you've been given. Ours is pretty lenient in terms of how much I have to actually follow the curriculum, and so I can do that. I can go choose my own books. But if you are required to follow with fidelity, then you got to do that. And I'm sorry. So I have these 2 huge buckets of books, and these are what I use to teach my language arts concepts. So like when we had context clues, I do not like the wonder stories. So I come back here and I get my Bad Case of Stripes book, and we use that, which I now can't put away. And I have this one that I use. This is a hilarious book. We use this for story structure when we talk about beginning, middle, and end. So I just have my own books that I use instead of using the anthology that Wonders provides. I do use a lot of their guided reading materials because these are leveled books and they have a lot of the like phonics principles that we're using that week. And so I do kind of follow along with these, but I also have my own supplemental books for kids that are like above or below, wow, words, above or below the levels that the Wonders books are at, because these books, even when you start getting a little bit further in, they get really long and wordy sometimes. And so sometimes we don't use these. Sometimes I use my own for that too. My opinion with that is, like, I'm a teacher for a reason, and I have to trust that I know what's best for my particular group of kids more than a textbook does. Now, some years I use more Wonders resources than others, just depending on the class and where they're at and what they need. But that's kind of my overall perspective of what I use. So on our grade level curriculum map, we have the theme of the Wonders, the strategies and skills that they're covering, and that's kind of what we follow along with, is these main tenets, and we make sure that we're covering all of these things. Then we do our own stuff for writing. These themes that they have, we've in the past sometimes lined those up so that they match to the social studies and science that we're doing, but not always. If you're using the Wonders anthology, then those themes are really nice because they line up to a lot of other second grade like social studies and science standards, generally speaking. But I feel like they're a little bit like out there sometimes, and so I generally don't. I know some teachers like them more, and so they use those themes to kind of like plan their whole week around that particular theme, but I don't love them, so I don't use them. So to sum up, in terms of the curriculum Wonders, I use the scope and sequence, I use their guided reading materials, I use the teacher's guide to sum up the bajillion things on those lesson plans. I do not sit there and read out of the book the lesson plans. I just use the scope and sequence. I use some of their books and some of their lessons from their teacher's guide, but I use a whole lot of my own picture books for the particular skills that they're doing. Mostly, I use the curriculum as a scope and sequence guide and some of their resources to supplement that scope and sequence, and a lot of my own resources to supplement that scope and sequence. I think when it comes to teaching, a lot of the times teachers feel like if I'm given this curriculum, I have to follow it exactly. And sometimes you do. Like I said, check with your administration what's going on with that. But you're a teacher because you as a human can make decisions that a textbook cannot. So if you're using a textbook and refusing to make any changes, like I did my first year of teaching, bless me, you're doing it wrong. You need to make sure that you are using resources to help you, because you do not need to reinvent the wheel, but also use your judgment to change and supplement things as needed in your particular class. I know it's incredibly overwhelming to look at a curriculum guide like that and be like, there's 12 pages for one day, and that's just supposed to be for my literacy block. I'm supposed to teach other subjects too. Literally impossible. You can't do it. So cut out the things that are superfluous, use the resources that you have to do better, different things as needed. For phonics, for example, we have an awesome teacher who's done a ton of research and study on phonics, and so she's taking our class and splitting them up into groups for 15 minutes a day where we really intensively work on the specific phonics that those kids need. I'm still following the Wonders phonics, for which I have made a phonics slideshow series where I do like a set structure each day to practice the phonetics principles that we're working on. But I still follow the scope and sequence. I just don't use their particular lessons like word for word from the book. I actually use a lot of the same stuff as them, just in my own way. So take some time to get to know your curriculum, use it to build something for yourself, and then take that foundation and then use your teacher skills to make it a beautiful, beautiful creation. That's kind of my advice when it comes to curriculum. Tonight is the second round of parent-teacher conferences, so I just thought I would show you what we're doing for parent-teacher conferences this year. It definitely looks different than normal. As you can tell, it's just me here in my classroom. We are doing all of our meetings digitally. So we set them all up through Google Meet because that's what our school uses. Zoom has some excellent ways to set up parent-teacher conferences, but we did ours through Google Meet. And yeah, let me just show you what it looks like from my perspective. All right, so this is my setup. I put my computer on a crate so that it's a little bit closer to my eyes and looking at me because that's a better angle. And I'm not sitting at my desk because I wanted the classroom to be in the background because none of the parents have ever been in our classroom before. And so I kind of wanted them to be able to see the space. I've got on my iPad pictures of all of their report cards and student evaluations, which I sent home in a paper folder for the parents. So the parents have the hard copies and I have a digital version. Got notes on all the kids, the surveys I sent home from the parents for questions they had. So I just show them on the computer screen and they chat with me. I have not been sharing my screen because they've got all the paper documents at home. So unless they need me to do it, I don't share my screen with them. And then I've got everybody's meetings scheduled into my Google Calendar so that it pulls them up and I just have to click on it. I have my meetings scheduled for 10 minutes long with 5 minutes in between to give me time to catch up and to get on to the next meeting. So I just pull them up on here and then I look at my stuff here. We chat for 10 minutes and then they go. Also on parent-teacher conference nights, the PTA provides us dinner, so we've been getting dinner from them. It's early, so it's like 3:30 and I already ate dinner. And our principal's been providing us treats every night, so we're doing pretty well in the Department of Parent-Teacher Conferences, but it does definitely feel different. It is a little bit odd to have never met these guys as parents because we didn't have back to school night and now they're not coming in. So like if your parents showed up, I wouldn't recognize them because I've never met them and they've really never met me either. So this is honestly like our first interaction. I've been teaching their kids for 7 weeks and most of them have never really seen me before. So that's kind of weird. But it's also nice that they get to see my whole face instead of a masked version. And, you know, it is what it is. This is what we're going to do. So I'm going to hop on my first meeting. And I actually have straight meetings from 3:30 until 7 o'clock tonight. So depending on how I'm feeling after that, I will maybe check back in with you. We'll see. We have a quick break moment. My principal brought me a drink from a local soda place. I don't drink soda. I just don't like the carbonation. So this is like a fruit drink. We're in between conferences, so I have my feet on this kid's desk. I am still going to clean their desks. They haven't yet, so nobody stress out that I'm like putting feet on kids' desks. That's disgusting. I would never do that without cleaning it off. All right, so for our parent-teacher conferences, I had them make these little folders to take all of their work home in. We just put all their papers, a bunch of like regular work samples, as well as some reports on their reading, some math tests that we took, and then a report card that I filled out for them. All of this just in this little folder, and I sent this home with them. And what they did is the parents had this on hand with them while we met, and I had pictures of all these documents, and they just pulled them out and we looked at them together and went over them just like we would in regular parent-teacher conferences. It honestly went really well to have those paper copies in front of them, and the kids were really responsible and took them right to their parents, and it meant that I could go over the information I wanted to go over, and they have all the evidence they need for those scores that I gave them in that folder with the math test and the writing samples and all those things. So that's what I've traditionally done anyway, is sent those folders back with the parents after they've met with me. So it worked really well to just send that home, and then I didn't have to be sharing my screen the whole time. They could see me, I could see them. For the kids who were absent, like this particular student, then I would just share my screen and show those documents, and they'll take the rest of it home when they get back to school. Same for my online kids, just kind of shared the documents that way. So if you haven't had parent-teacher conferences yet, that's my tip. Send the documents home just like you would at a normal parent-teacher conference. Don't try and digitize too much. So I'm all the way at home now, but I need to tell the story before I forget it. So this evening at parent-teacher conferences, I had a set of parents who were concerned about their child being able to make friends. So I was trying to explain that they were meeting a lot of kids and that we were like working with partners safely in class, and that they were meeting some kids from the other grades because we have this phonics workshop rotation that we do, and that was allowing them to meet kids. And my word choice was poor, incredibly poor. The words that came out of my mouth to these parents were, you know, it's okay because we're doing all these activities, and so he's being exposed to a lot of people. And as soon as those words came out of my mouth, I was like, oh. Exposed is so not a good word to use in this situation. Your child is not being exposed. We're keeping them safe. We're masked. We're washing hands. We're cleaning. We're maintaining as much distance as we can. Oh, it's fine. I just told these parents that their child's being exposed to other kids. Lots of them. So that's good. Whoops. All right, I'm finally sitting down to edit and put this video together for you. It's taken me forever, and for that, I apologize. I also realized I never did any kind of like an outro closure to this video, and it's kind of 2 videos put together because I filmed like half of a video and then stopped. Needless to say, I have not been totally with it on the mental game, currently on fall break, and it has been miraculous for me. I'm feeling so much more refreshed and ready to take on this intense school year. I also talk with my hands a lot. I'm sorry. I'm gonna put that down. Anyway, thank you for staying through this long and odd assortment of clips. Hopefully any of this information was helpful to you, or at least you found some amusement in some of the ridiculous stories that I told. I will be back again later with more content. Until then, see ya.